Welcome everyone to episode 4 of Thrashcast. I'm your host Billy today, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Jim and Ken. How are you guys doing today?
Very good,
Awesome.
sir.
All right, great. Another good topic today, staying on the German thrash scene, but yeah. So Sodom today, we're going to be covering the album Agent Orange, and we're going to be doing the tough task of ranking the full Sodom discography. So that should be pretty fun. But before we get going, just wanted to thank everyone again for following along and watching all the podcasts we're putting up,
Yep.
getting some really good views. So thanks to everybody for that. Um, Also wanted to give a special thanks to a friend Darcy, who has a YouTube channel, Darcy Six Strings Nine Lives, and so he gave us a shout out that sort of gave some additional eyes to our new channel. So much appreciated, Darcy. And for anyone who doesn't know Darcy's channel, again, it's called Darcy Six Strings Nine Lives. It's a great heavy metal channel. He does all types of heavy metal, and he's been going for years on the YouTube community. So please give him a watch and follow as well, in addition to ourselves, of course.
Mhm.
And then just a
Absolutely.
reminder, speaking of that, where can you find our Thrashcast? Well, you can find that at www.horrormetalsounds.com, and over on YouTube, same thing, Horror Metal Sounds, at Ken G2864. And I do believe, Ken, we've now got it going up, audio version. Can you share some details on that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So what we decided to do is the audio only version of the podcast. We're calling it On the Road. So, the idea is just to get additional ears listening to our podcast and other places like Spotify. So yeah, as I mentioned, Spotify is where we now have posted episode 1 for creators. So yeah, if you're on the go and you just want to hear something as an audio version, you can certainly do that. Eventually, we will have more up there, which is we just started with this one this week, and you'll see Sacred Reich and you'll see Destruction up there very soon.
Yeah. All right, great. And yeah, that gives like a good sort of recap of what we've done so far. Episode 1 being Creator, episode 2, Sacred Reich, episode 3, Destruction. And of course, today's episode is episode 4, will be Sodom. So before we jump into the topic at hand, just like we do in the past, we're going to sort of do a bit of what's spinning or some of the latest news. So let's go there first. Ken, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so this week for some news, I recently found out that Anthrax is going to be touring in South America very shortly.
Mm.
And we've also just found out that Frankie Bello, bassist for the band, is not going to be on the tour. He's bowing out for personal reasons for this at this point in time. So the band is went way back in the past and pulled out Dan Lilker, their original
Nice.
bassist, and founder of Anthrax, to join them on the tour. Now, Scott's already come on and said that it's just basically for the tour, and he's not coming to the band to replace Frankie. And so there will be dates in South America, and I believe some U.S. festival dates in May. So that's going to be great. So if you know anything about Dan, he's been in many many bands. He's been in Sod with Charlie Benante, Scott Ian, and Billy Milano. And so it's nice to see that the original bassist for Anthrax is going to join them for that tour. Too bad it's not here in North America, but
Mm.
it's
That's
still
wicked.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still good. It's a feel good thing, and I know they've always been good friends with Dan. So yeah, it's kind of cool that he's come back to play some of the old tunes again.
Okay. And do you
Cool.
remember, Ken, like how is it that he left the band?
He left the band very early after the first
Yeah.
album. I don't think they had a falling out. I don't think he just was jiving with them at the time. They've always
Okay.
been friends. I mean, I've never heard
Yeah.
Scott say anything bad about Dan, but yeah, I think it was just the first album. They made
Okay.
changes and then he moved on. But of course, they did Sod together, right? Stormtroopers of Death. So
Yeah.
obviously, they've maintained like a professional relationship in music. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah. And then, of course, Anthrax has their drummer over with Pantera at
Yeah,
the top.
Pantera.
So they
Oh
better
yeah,
look out. They may lose half their band members.
I know, and even Jonathan apparently is going to be playing with Shadowless Fall. They're doing some reunion dates, and they're
Huh?
talking about maybe getting together for something beyond that, which would be great. But I guess everyone has their own personal thing going in their spare time, right?
Yeah. That makes
Makes
sense.
sense. Yeah.
Cool.
So the other bit of news I have is basically what I'm spinning. So, and I mentioned it previously on March 1st, Messiah. They're like a classic a thrash death band from Switzerland. They've released their new album beginning, I think it was, March 1st that it came out. And it's called Christus Hypercubus, which is an interesting
Nice.
name for a
Sounds like
title.
a Voivod title.
It does,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very weird. Yeah. I love the title.
Yeah.
This is their second album after the reformation because they originally came out in the late 80s and then they called it quits in 2003 and then reformed in 2017. So they're back on the scene with some new music. This album is out actually on High Roller Records. So if you're looking to give them a spin, I highly suggest it. Yeah, they're a great band. And I've heard this album quite a bit now. I've been listening to it pretty much for the last month, and I really, really dig it. So yeah, if you check them out on Bandcamp or YouTube or Spotify or wherever you're getting your music these days, and give them a go.
Oh, cool. And High Roller Records is like one of my favorite labels these days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, High
They just
Roller's
put
great.
out top-notch stuff, like high
Oh
quality.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So it's great that they're on this label. So hopefully we'll see where they go from here.
Cool. All right. How about you, Jim?
Oh yeah, just a quick news update that I didn't really know what was going on, but I heard like in early March there, Jay Weinberg got let go from Slipknot. So, and he ended up in Suicidal Tendencies in the Mike Muir camp. So, talk about, in my mind, a step up. I mean, I'm not a Slipknot fan, so I think that's pretty cool. And he's there with apparently he did his first shows, I think, in Japan on the 14th and 16th, I think, and they're going to be hitting in the US in a punk crossover show in California. So that's going to be pretty cool. I think that's really neat. And, just it's got Ty Torrillo in there, who's, Robert's son, which is really cool. And I know they're ripping it up on tour. So just a little bit of a call out there with one of my favorite bands for Suicidal. What I'm spinning now is a couple of things. It's funny that, Ken brought up Anthrax. I just received my Anthrax copy of
nice.
For All Kings, and it's the tour edition. And I now have I'm a completist, so now I have completed my Anthrax collection, and it's a wicked album. And I was spinning it digitally, but finally broke down and bought it, which is great. And I get so many deliveries a day. It came in the other day, and I was like, "Oh, wicked! I gotta give that a plug." And just to plug, kind of a bit of a local maritime band. I picked up this from Bandcamp the other day. Omnivide.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's called here A Tale of Fire, and this is a band. They're coming to Halifax, I think, to do a release party. So I'm hoping to maybe get there in middle of April. But it's got a little bit of a thrashy, symphonic kind of death metal, very progressive. It's kind of a really good sound. It's got some great stuff on it. There's a song on it called Stone Dragon, which is just phenomenal. And I suggest anybody definitely give it a spin. It's definitely worth it. It's some great stuff. And anytime, it's Moncton, New Brunswick, still 2.5 hours from where I'm from, but a little on the local side, which is kind of cool. So that's what I'm spinning right now, guys.
Cool.
Nice. I still got to check that one out. I saw you post that last week. There.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's pretty cool. It's not bad.
I gave it a go. It's pretty good, actually.
Okay. And where did you? And that's fairly easy to get, I guess, that CD copy.
Oh yeah, I got it on Bandcamp for
Yeah.
like just and ordered it. It got here super quick. It came right from Moncton, which is cool. Like I started ordering. I know Billy, you and both Billy and Ken, both you guys probably have ordered a lot of stuff from Bandcamp. I only
Yeah.
started about 6 months ago, and I
Oh wow.
love supporting. I love
Yeah.
supporting these new bands, and a lot of times you get personal notes from them and some cool stuff. It's pretty neat. So,
Yeah.
you got to give these guys. A lot of these guys are searching for labels and whatnot. So, it's great to buy directly from them and really kind of keep it going and pay it forward. Is what I think.
Yeah, no, completely agree. There was a local Toronto band, a great thrash band, called what was it, Striker, I think.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Striker's great. Yeah, yeah.
And I ended up ordering the on Bandcamp, but the thing ended up coming all the way from like Hungary.
Oh
oh
Uh,
wow.
really?
so like it took forever. Then I had to pay duty, and like I should have known because the shipping was like $20 for a vinyl record.
Oh
Uh,
man.
but anyways, what can you do? Okay, cool. So my thing. So first, what's spinning? I had a record on my to get list for quite some time, and I haven't been able to find it. It's actually a band from where I live, Toronto.
Okay.
The band's Overthrow, and the classic thrash album Within Suffering from 1990. I've been looking for it forever, and where did I find it? In
Cool.
Texas. Um, so we were actually at Hell's Heroes, and there was a guy who had like an amazing bin, just bins of vinyl there that they sell, the external vendors. And he was doing all the high roller records for like $20 or $25, all still sealed. But then he had like this Overthrow like album
Cool.
here. And it's
Yep.
like I don't even think it was initially issued on vinyl. I think it was just CD, but there was like a Vic Records 2019 reissue, and he had them sitting there, and it had like a little sticker, and there were actually two copies, so I made my friend buy one too because I
Nice.
knew he'd like it. Um, but it said $30 on it, so like I mean, to be honest, I probably would have paid $50. I wanted this record so bad, and the guy goes, "Oh, finally, someone's gonna buy this stuff. I've had it for like 4 years. I have no idea what it is. Nobody knows what it is." So he gave us both copies for $20. Uh,
Nice.
so so that was pretty good. And it's actually a double vinyl. It's a two record, so
Oh,
that
cool.
makes sense. But yeah, just great thrash band,
Yep.
strong musicianship. I think the songwriting's pretty memorable. And they have the distinction of probably being the first Canadian band to actually record at the famous Morrisound Studios in Florida. So that's kind of
Yeah.
cool little tidbit. So yeah, so that's something I've been spinning lately. And then one follow-up news item, I think I mentioned in the past that the Canadian technical thrash band Obliveon had the CD reissues coming out,
Yeah.
and so it's actually now we have a date.
Oh,
So
cool.
Awakening Records announced that you can pre-order on April 15th, so pretty much in a few days, and they'll ship them on May 5th.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool. They got all the CDs, lots of bonus stuff, and then you can get t-shirts. So I ordered a t-shirt as well,
Mhm.
and patches and all whatever
Cool.
metal stuff you like they had. Um, so yeah, so that's a pretty cool news story. I know I keep harping on that, but the first two albums of that band are so incredible. They need they need some more
Cool.
attention, I think. Okay, cool. So that wraps up the that segment of the podcast. So let's jump over to Sodom, and as always, we'll start out with a bit of a bio. So of course, I think everyone knows Sodom's a German thrash band, part of the German Big Four. They actually started in 1981. I didn't realize it was quite that early. Apparently, they chose the name Sodom eventually from the Venom song, 1000 Days in Sodom. So that's apparently how they got there. The key member, of course, is bassist and vocalist Tom Angel Ripper. He's been the one consistent member from day one. And then particularly on drums, it's been kind of a revolving drum stool through the career of the band. As it stands today, you got Tom on vocals and bass. One of my favorite guitarists, Frank Blackfire, on guitar. He spent some actually Creator stole him from Sodom right after the album we're going to talk about today. And then he sort of came back into Sodom later on. Then we got Tony Merkel on drums, and I'll probably butcher this name, but Yorick Segas also on guitars. So as we mentioned, the ranking will be a big thing, but they had 16 studio albums, but also multiple EPs. I mean, that famous EP In the Sign of Evil kind of put them on the map. Lots of cool live recordings. And one thing I could vouch for, like I've seen them live 3 times this year. Like these guys are still on fire all these years later. Personally, I've enjoyed them far more than the last couple Creator shows. But in fairness, that may just be because I rarely get to see them here in North America. So that's probably a part of it. But so yeah, that's it for the bio. Kim, Ken or Jim, anything you guys want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that they don't forget though, they've lost Witch Hunter. He
Yeah.
passed away, and the other guitarist, who his name escapes me at the moment, both passed away, which is kind of sad. Which was I didn't realize it till I was looking over their Discovery, and I was like, whoa, wow, yeah, that's right, Witch Hunter passed away, and the other guitarist passed away. So yeah, it's kind of sad when you think about it, but
Yeah.
you know, kudos to Tom for keeping it up.
And you know what I think is cool, Billy, is that's when we ranked our Teutonic 4. And when I started really getting into going back into the Sodom catalog, I mean, we haven't done a tankard show yet, and that's probably coming down the line because we got to finish it off. But I love Creator, and I think I ranked Sodom second. And I gotta admit, like it's probably out of the Teutonic 4, and I got to get back into a little bit more tankard, but I think it's probably like I think I texted you guys and I said, hey, this stuff is really, it's kind of definitely a lot more. There's no peaks and valleys, like there's no valleys, big valleys, like even in Creator. I know I said, well, they tweaked it and whatever, and they had a couple of dud albums, but and same with Destruction, but these guys are generally been pretty consistent sounding, to the point where like I would compare them to more of a Success Factor of like a Motorhead, where there really is no bad Motorhead albums. And like and I as soon as I started thinking that, I was like, yeah, geez, Billy was right. Like, geez, I don't like to admit I'm even half wrong. So
Yeah, I know. That's a good way to look at it, right? I mean, you kind of know what you're going to get with a Sodom album. I mean, sometimes they're more punky, dive into the punk crossover more. Sometimes they even sound like Motorhead, on occasion. And every now and then they dabbled in 1 or 2 albums, slight death metal influence as well.
And black metal, and a little bit of black metal as well.
Yeah, for sure, right? The early Sodom on there, but it was still Sodom, right? Like there's no Human Cannonball
no, not at all, man.
in the catalog. So all right, cool. So along those very same lines, I got a question for you guys. So this came up during the Creator podcast. It came up during the Sodom podcast. And so obviously the 90s output, and this is not limited to just Creator or Destruction. There was some odd American thrash output taking place in the 90s. But specifically talking to the 90s, what do you guys think of Sodom's 1990 period? Maybe Ken, we'll start with you.
Yeah, the 90s period is kind of okay. I do compare it to Creator a little bit. I I don't know. I mean, I liked they started off well with Better Off Dead in '90, which I like that album. Eye for an Eye
Yeah.
is a song I still like. And then
Mhm.
they followed up with Tapping the Vein, which kind of got a little bit more rough around the edges, kind of punky. And I still like that album in '92. But then they kind of dip for me because then you get like Get What You Deserve, Masquerade in Blood, and Until Death Do Us Unite. They're kind of all right, but I didn't really love any of those three albums a lot. I could listen to them, but I won't. I don't really want to come back to them very, very often. It's once in a
Mm.
while for me. But I will say that for me, in 1999, when they released Code Red, that's when it got my attention all over again, which I consider one of their best albums in my mind. Don't want to give away my rankings either, but let's just say that that album is that's a fantastic album, and it's kind of a return to form album for them because it was more on point. There's a lot of anger and vitriol. Yeah, the songs are all the songs are great. I can't really tell you there's one bad song on that record, and I love that album cover. That album cover is
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
Totally blows me away. So yeah, so I kind of think sort of they're very similar to Creator. Creator, same thing. Like when they came back and after Endorama, they came back and released a really good album right after that. So kind of in the same vein as these guys, Sodom is the same. I mean, they came back with a ripper of an album, and they've sort of kind of been on point ever since. Like Creator as well. I think Creator has still been on point. So yeah, that's kind of how I view the '90s output from the band.
How about you, Jim?
I like the whole catalog. I had wasn't really a tough time. Like, I'll be honest, Tapping the Vein for me is one of my favorite albums, and it ranks fairly high. So,
Mm.
like the early '90s, and I also got what else have I got in there? That would be Code Red. Obviously, is one of the better ones. Even Better Off Dead, Until Death Do Us Unite are a little bit more higher. I have reasons why I ranked maybe some of the albums. Like, I had to come up with a 15 and 16. It
Yeah.
necessarily really doesn't mean I don't like the albums, but
Mm-hmm.
just I'll explain it, I guess, when I get to the rankings. But I like their '90s output.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably more so thinking back to Creators and obviously Destruction, probably a little bit more on their '90s. For me, though, Creator kind of jumps out of the gate quick, and I really like the latest Creator album, as you could tell from my rankings. So I have a real big soft spot for it. But Sodom, I got to admit, and some of these I'll total transparency. Some of the albums I haven't listened to in a couple of years. And as soon as I spun them, I listened to almost everything this week, and like M16 and that I just playing it over and over and over again, and Tapping the Vein. I love that album, and I didn't find they tapered off for me at all. I think it just was really just consistently good.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably lean a bit more to your direction, Jim. Like we said before, like I picked Sodom as my favorite of the German Big Four, and probably a big reason for that is just how consistent they've been. Like to my ears, like I mean, I'd be lying if I said they didn't tweak the sound in the '90s,
No,
because they did, right? They crossed, a couple of the albums, they crossed into punk a little bit more. But like, I mean, it's not like a major shift like many of the other bands did. Like to me, Sodom has the best '90s output of any, whether it be the German Big Four, the American Big Four, or
good point.
probably the American Big Four, the Phase Two bands.
Yeah,
But that's me. That's not everybody. But and again, we'll get into the ranking. But 6 albums in the '90s, 3 are at the very top. And 3 are sort of, and I guess the bottom half would be fair, but I still enjoy them.
Right.
So yeah, and for me, like to come out with what Tapping the Vein was what probably '92, I think.
'92.
92,
Yeah,
yeah.
so '92. I mean, that's Sodom coming out. Like grunge is in full
Yeah,
force. Everybody's like switching to Pantera style groove metal.
yeah.
And then you've got Sodom giving the big metal, the big middle finger to the metal scene and coming back with their heaviest record,
Yep.
tapping the vein, right? Like entering death metal territory, or at least on the vocals. I mean, I just have so much respect for Sodom. So, yeah. So I do find they differentiated themselves from everybody else in the '90s. But again, that's just personal taste. So nobody has to agree with me there. Um, but cool, and we'll get into all that, I'm sure, when we get to our rankings.
Yeah.
So another question. So Sodom, of course, has the infamous mascot, the soldier in black with the gas mask, who first appeared in 1987's Persecution Mania, which is another great Sodom album. I mean, to me, it's a striking figure on the album covers. What do
Yeah.
you guys think, Jim, of that mascot for
Oh,
Sodom?
it is so cool. You got Vic Rattlehead for Megadeth, and
Yeah.
you've got these big, and I love it. I mean, you've got Eddie for Iron Maiden, but yeah, I mean, that is
Mhm.
just so cool. That is one of my favorite album covers of all time. It's so friggin' cool, and
Yeah.
it just says it. And I love the fact they incorporated. They got the Mad Butcher for Destruction as well, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so cool. And that I think every Sodom album, just the covers. I mean, you know, it's exciting to talk about because it's they're just one after another, just so cool. And that's a part of their persona, I think.
Yeah.
It's very even the greatest hits albums, I guess you could say, or the best of albums, and then
Yeah.
you've got the live albums, and they're just like, it's all so much war theme on it, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Ken's the art expert, and I'm sure he has some intricate
Yep.
details there.
Yeah, no.
Sure.
So that's what I was going to say. Ken's our resident art expert. So over to you.
Yeah. So the mascot is named. I'm going to butcher this. It's Naren Hines. I think the K is silent. So Naren Hines is the
Hmm.
name of their mascot. Their mascot, when you think about it, he's basically, you can compare him to Violent Mind by Creator. You can compare him to Mad Butcher by Destruction. Um, I did read that Kerrang did once rank the 22 favorite metal mascots, and actually Sodom's mascot ranked number 7. So that's how much
Nice.
they think of him over the Mad Butcher or Violent Mind. So I think that's interesting. The
Yeah.
funny thing about the character though is that you can see that he's evolved over the years.
Yeah.
Sort of like Eddie in a lot of ways. So like it's like a straight militant figure with this gas mask, and then you can see over time the character gets kind of de-evolved into different kind of forms. So I think that's kind of really neat. Now, from what I understand, I don't think Tom came up with the mascot. I believe it was Frank Blackfire who did, because from my understanding, although Tom was very much impacted by war, now he really felt like a strong connection to the Vietnam War, which is kind of
Mhm.
interesting. I know his grandfather fought in World War II, so he has a connection to war. He did state that I think it's 1979. He got a copy of The Deer Hunter, which with Robert De Niro, which is
Oh,
a fantastic film, and
yeah.
that film had a profound impact on him when he started writing lyrics. So I think that's kind of an interesting connection. Tom is also apparently a pacifist, which I find kind of funny in a lot of ways. He is admittedly saying he's a pacifist, but so obviously he's against the idea of war in general. So Naren Hines actually, from what I understand, was created by Frank Blackfire, who he had the most input on it. Johannes Beck was the original artist who did it on Persecution Mania, and so they've had this kind of this symbol of this militaristic might or this character ever since. So I think it's a very fascinating character, personally.
If I could, you know what I think? I've got I'm going to get artistic on you guys right now.
Yes.
So, and I'm usually not, but I in the early album covers, he kind of reminds me, every time I see him, I think of maybe more of an unknown soldier type thing. I know he
Mhm.
evolved as things went on, but I thought that was really cool. Kind of more of a shadowy figure, but it really hits home when you see him. And I mean, you know, every metalhead out there can, you know, if you did a mascot or a symbol sort of contest, you know, as soon as you see it, you know, and that's what it's all
Yeah.
about. It's so cool. But I kind of always thought of it as a bit of it could be an everyman sort of soldier and really cool fighting for metal. I think it's pretty cool, and I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Ken, I guess it's safe to say the winner of that mascot voting was Eddie.
Yeah, I believe that's right. Eddie did come in at number one, which no, sorry. Eddie
No?
number two, number one was Snaggletooth from Motorhead.
Oh,
Okay. Well, I
So
guess,
I
yeah.
was hoping I would have been hoping for the seal thing off of Riot. I'm just kidding.
Oh, God.
well, no,
Yeah.
actually, Riot. Believe it or not, the Riot mascot's in there. It was number 22.
Oh wow!
Well, you
So
can't
it was
forget it
actually
once
in
you
there.
see it. It's ingrained into your mind. You
Yeah.
get nightmares at
And
night.
then the Not Man for Anthrax was number 6. I forget the rest of it, but yeah, it's interesting rankings for all the characters involved. But I thought that was number 7 was pretty cool for
Yeah.
Narenheim.
Yeah, no, that is
Wicked.
cool. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the mascot's really cool. But I also like, I mean, Sodom's not the only band to do this, but they don't use the mascot on every album. So
No,
he'll get skipped. And then, you know, when the new album comes out and he's back, it's like, all right, he's back. So that's kind of cool. And I just love the fact that he's so like he's kind of mysterious, right? Like it's
yes.
Yeah.
just like I love seeing him on the album covers. Okay, so let's get into Agent Orange. Again, we kind of showed this already, and I think
Wicked.
all thrash fans kind of know this album. And if you don't, well, this will be a great introduction. And yeah, I think you kind of hit on it, Ken, right? This is really coming out of like, you know, Tom's fascination with the Vietnam War. And he kind of,
Yeah.
even in the liner notes, I kind of jotted that down, but you know, it says right in the notes the album's dedicated to all people, soldiers, and civilians who died by senseless aggressions of war all over the world. So, yeah, so I think that's kind of a cool dedication for a thrash band. So yeah, that's cool. Okay, so let's get into the tracks. Track number 1, Agent Orange. Jim, we're going to go to you first.
Oh man, the album starts off like on the best footing. This is such a killer song. I mean, it's got the melodic heavy guitars and it speeds up so fast. And you know what? If you're I'd like to go back in time and listen to this for the first time again. I think it would be really cool because you know Angel Ripper's vocals are so evil sounding on this. I think
Yeah.
it's got kind of an old school bit of a Metallica vibe, but it's so
Hmm.
fast. And I love I love the growl when he growls Agent Orange, and he just growls it towards the end of the song. And I think the chopper sounds towards the end in that are really cool, and kind of you can hear the army banter over the probably the walkies or whatever. It's
Yeah.
just such a cool song. I mean, it's one of my favorites. It's not my favorite on the album because I've got a couple of favorites. Actually, it is one of my favorites. I've got 3 or 4 favorites. What the hell? It doesn't matter. But I just, you know, again, I'd love to go back into time and listen to this album again because it's mind blowing when you listen to it. Especially if you haven't listened to it in a while. You just put it on, you're like, man, this is so awesome. It's just and again, we use that Stacia there had used that term, the face melter. This is definitely a face
Cool.
melter.
Ken, how about you?
Yeah, I like this song too. I mean, obviously it's an anti-protest war song about the use of, chemical weapons, especially during Vietnam. So that's kind of an interesting point. It's strong on point for that. I actually think Jim, you were saying Metallica. I actually think there's a bit of a Slayer vibe in this. Just
There
just in
could
some of the
be, yep.
riffs, just in some of the riffs, and just the overall kind of attitude towards it. The other thing about Tom's vocals that I found is that there's a kind of a proto kind of black metal feel to it. A little bit of Venom I find on this, like he and yeah, so his vocals are great. I love the vocals and
Yeah.
the quick tempo and just the overall nastiness of the song. It's a great opener. It's one of my. I think it would be my favorite song on the album.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. There's so many good songs on this album, but I don't know, like for me, what struck me, like when you listen to this, was just the obvious like leap in production, musicianship,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
songwriting, right? It's just a huge leap forward. I mean, Persecution Mania was great, but that was a leap forward from the previous album. And then this is a leap forward from those two albums. So to me, this is just kind of an epic track. It's a staple of the live show. I agree with you guys. Like I love Tom's vocals. I always
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
It's just that evil like snarl.
Oh yeah.
It's I mean it's still vicious thrash like Persecution Mania was, but this is where the maturity comes in. Like they also like get more melodic and they slow things down more. So I think it's more interesting songwriting. The chorus is so simple, but the Agent Orange, the fire that doesn't burn, like it's just the
Yeah.
way Tom says it is so
Yeah.
cool. It's simple, but it's like effective. And I forget how maybe it was you, Jim, but kind of in the middle song, when they slow it down, and then you got the walkie-talkies and
Yeah.
the broadcast going, like it gets much slower, and then it just rips again, right? Like it's such a it's such a memorable moment. Frank, I mean, I love Frank Blackfire. I think I've said it,
Yeah.
my favorite guitarist, but yeah, he does a fantastic job. And him and Witch Hunter pretty much wrote all the music on this thing.
That's right.
Tom stuck to the lyrics here and the riffs, right? That
Yeah.
main Agent Orange riff is just so bloody memorable. Like it puts a smile on my face every time I hear this track. So yeah, I agree with you guys. Great track. So
Yeah.
then that moves us to track number 2, Tired and Red. Ken, how about you start with this one?
Yeah, this is another song that I like a lot. Like it's punishing. The opening is really punishing,
Yeah.
and then it's just another ripper from there. You get a lot of quick tempo, and then it slows down. It picks up. I like the acoustic middle, and then it picks up again, which makes it so great. So lyrically, what I was reading about the song and what I sort of interpreted out of the lyrics is that they wanted to cover the three things about the idea of death, which is or scenarios, I should say. So you get like a death by a gunshot, you get death by knife, and you get death by the electric chair, which is kind of interesting thought that they put into the song or what Tom was writing about. The chorus and the phrase like tired and red is really cool. And I think it's a metaphor, and it's obviously the idea that a person is kind of worn out and covered in blood through violence. So that's kind of how I interpret it. And I was reading other people saying the same thing. So it's a great song. I like it. I like this song quite a bit. It's pretty strong.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's we're definitely on a roll, 1-2 punch on the album, right?
Yeah.
As you said, Ken, just full out thrash mode right from the very beginning. But also, like, as we said before, like Sodom's not afraid to slow down here and mix it up, right? I mean, that
Right.
just makes the thrashing parts even heavier, right? So that's cool. And that's not something they were so comfortable doing in the past. So really like that. Ken, you mentioned it. I love that contrasting, like melodic solo that Frank does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of in the middle of the song. Again, just the riffs, like Frank's riffs, like around the chorus is just so memorable. I think Witch Hunter does a pretty good job here. I find the drumming pretty cool. and again, I'm going to go back to Frank, right? I mean, he joins the band with Persecution Mania. It's just a massive leap with him joining. Like, I sound like such a fanboy, but like the maturity of the songwriting just drastically changed. And you know, his solos and things on here are really great. But yeah, just another good track and a real catchy chorus again on this one. So how about you, Jim?
Oh, this is like could be my 1A. This
Oh,
song
nice.
has it all, and what I love about this album and what I love about this band is the changes in almost every song. It goes into so many different directions, and yeah, I love it. This for me has more of a bit of the vocal part of it, but this is almost 3/4 an instrumental to some degree, and I
Mm.
love how they slow it down in the middle and they have that acoustic break. It's wicked. It just shows how talented this band is, and I guess I talked about not really tweaking their sound, but the song definitely tweaks their sound. And I think that's what makes it stand out for me. I mean, that heavy drum intro is just wicked. And it's just, again, you don't know where it's going to go. And I think it showcases not only the vocals, but the musicianship as well. But and this album, you guys are right when you talked about a lot of Sodom and songs have definitely a punk vibe to it because there's some songs coming up that definitely do and I mean but this is just such a good example of what's to come on this album. Awesome.
Yeah. No, great. And so speaking of what's to come, track number three is next. Incest. Jim, how about you start here?
Oh, I mean this for me has an old school Slayer vibe, and I agree with Ken there on the first one definitely. This is just right out of the gate fast, and I love the distorted guitar sounds on it. And then it
Mhm.
again, the directional changes in the stock. It comes to a dead stop at one point, and then it just bams right in again. This is another great song. I mean, at this point of the album, you're song three in, and you're not going backwards at all. Not going backwards at all.
Yeah. No, well said. Ken?
Yeah, obviously the song writing about incest. So, so that's like a heavy topic for Tom to be writing about. But yeah, there's lots of nastiness to the song, the chugs, the vocals especially on this song. A lot of crunch too. I like the sound. There's a really a lot of crunchy guitars that really drive the song. It's a short song, but
Hmm.
it does work, and it's a
Mhm.
really really for me. It's like you followed up with three songs that are really hard hitting, so it's fantastic for me.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, I agree. Another great song here. Again, it just rips right out of the gate. I mean, I mean, I think somebody had said it's like old school kind of thrash style. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
sort of noted definitely, older school Sodom influence for sure, but I can hear some of the older school US thrash sound in here as well. I really like just before the chorus when it really gets heavy. Like that's pretty cool. Again, they do a good job at mixing up the pacing. I think Frank has an awesome lead here in this track, right? It's almost kind of eerie. It's a really interesting lead that separates it from the rest. And a couple like really good kind of mid-pace like chugging riff hooks. I think Ken, you mentioned that, but yeah, just another great track. And I think we're going into probably what I think we'll agree is yet another great track. Remember the Fallen. Ken, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I love this song quite a bit. I mean, it's a very passionate song written about the idea of soldiers going to war, losing their lives, and then the debate in the song about sacrificing your life to go at war. So I love that. It's a bit of the philosophical side to Tom on this one. I love the chorus overall. It's kind of catchy for me.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say about this though is the vocal styles have a little bit of Dave Mustaine. I sort of see there's a bit of comparisons. I'm like, oh, it's because Dave had a very somewhat of a raspy voice, and at times he would kind of talk and sing. It was a weird combination, but I'm getting it here in this song. So I thought that was an interesting comparison. And obviously Megadeth loves to talk about war in their music, so there are some comparisons. But this is a really, really good song, Remember the Fallen. It's a strong song for those guys.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't think I got a Megadeth reference, but I'm not good at that. You guys always pull those up. But I do have one for you coming up. I pulled out almost an exact reference, so we'll see. I'm gonna let you guys do that one first and see if you say the same thing. But yeah, so this is one of my favorite tracks. It's just that opening guitar riff. I mean, it's such a earworm on this song. And to me, I find, not necessarily who I compare Tom to, but I find this is as close as he gets to clean singing.
Yes.
So that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's melodic, but it's also catchy as hell. I mean, that chorus is just so memorable. But like one of my favorite parts on the whole album is sort of the section kind of in the bridge and at the very end. And like in the bridge when Tom sings like, to the command of the dictators, they march to fight in a senseless war. Most of them were puppets and children. The battle was lost before it began. So, just the music and the way he says that, like, it's one of my favorite parts of the entire album. It's just a fantastic part of the song. Jim, how about you?
Oh yeah, I think I get where Ken's getting the vocalization from Mustaine because total clean vocals. This, in my mind, could have been a top 40 song. I mean, this would be a very commercial in the sense that anybody who likes traditional metal to thrash metal to covers so many genres. I think this would be like definitely a fan grabber of maybe somebody who's not necessarily into heavy music. And I think this would be a really good sort of gateway into it. It's got definitely has a Motorhead vibe for me. I mean, those thick pounding guitars that lead into a higher, faster tempo as the song goes. I love that. But yeah, I love he has fairly clean vocals throughout all of it. Can get a little high and a little more distorted, but yeah, this is total clean vocals. This to me, I mean, it's a kick-ass song. I absolutely love it. And I think that if this was the most commercial song on the album, if you could say, if Sodom ever had a song that could be played and get some radio play, this would definitely be it.
Hmm. And it's funny, it reminded me of something the way you said that this would appeal to broader metal fans.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
actually remember going way back to when this album came out. And I had a friend who was definitely older than me, but he actually introduced me to a lot of the metal. But he had listened to Sodom on the very first album when it came out in the EP. And he wasn't the biggest fan. He thought it was just a little too raw and rough. And I remember we were in the car together, and I put my cassette in, and I put it right to this song, and he was just stunned at how much Sodom had changed from those early EP and first album to Remember the Fallen. It's like unrecognizable. But yeah, great song. Okay, so Magic Dragon, Jim, over to you.
This is a cool song. This is one of my top ones. I love the plane sounds in it are wicked. I mean, this is just fast and heavy balls out metal. It's a wicked track. Again, like the album just keeps getting better and better and better. And I'm starting to top out at picking my favorite song because there's just so many. It's kind of impossible. And I like them all for different reasons. So, this is a really consistently damn ass good album, and it doesn't stop at track 5.
Yeah,
But I was kind of wondering if the name of the album, Magic Dragon, if it the Magic Dragon band that's a top 40 band, maybe they were big Sodom fans, but I couldn't find the correlation.
I have a feeling Ken, who may have analyzed the lyrics, might have a feeling.
Yeah,
I bet he knows. Ken,
Magic Dragon actually refers to the AC-47 plane that you hear at the beginning of the song. So So basically, what Tom was getting at here is that in the lyrics, he actually writes out this scenario where they're in a camp and they're all kind of worried about being attacked in Vietnam. So so that's what the magic dragon refers to. It's a metaphor for the planes. They're waiting for the AC-47s to drop down on them. So I think that's kind of an interesting correlation to the song. Yeah, this song is really, really good. I mean, Witch Hunter is amazing on the drums here. He's just relentless all the way through. I love the gallop. There's a really nice gallop towards the end of the song that just really helps to put that exclamation point on the song for me. Yeah, it's a really, really solid song with good chugs. A lot of doomy. I love the doomy beginning, kind of leading in, and then you get the sound of the planes. Oh, it's such a great song. It's it's another really good song on this album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I like it so much is I think this song, it just really builds the tension. I mean, for the first 2 minutes, it sort of stays very, kind of mid-paced. And like every sort of 20 seconds, you think it's going to take off, but it doesn't. It actually stays there. Like when you listen to it, it kind of builds and builds, and then it doesn't do anything. Then it builds and builds. And only 2 minutes in does the song take off. So that's really cool for me. I like that. This is a song where I find, like I love Tom's vocals, and part of it I think is his accent. It just adds like an extra layer to his voice singing in English. But like, I love the way he pronounces Magic Dragon. I think that's pretty cool. That accent. Frank just destroys the guitar solo on this song. It's a brilliant one. But another one of these really cool moments is when there's that dramatic slowdown, and Tom just says, "Orders are clear. Pressure to win the war." Like it's just that thing is so damn memorable, that line, and then the riff that comes in right after that, just fantastic. And Ken, you kind of hit it, that sort of that punky guitar groove that comes in towards the end of the song is just brilliant. Like I love it there. And then the slow fade out of the track. But Jim, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, like I thought it was really good as well. I mean, it was a great song. So, again, too, like we're just flying through this album and it's just so good. I mean, that the military, the planes and that, it just sounds so cool. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Exhibition bout. Jim, over to you.
Oh, yeah, this kind of reminds me, like, I think there was a track off of the Destruction album we talked about where the vocals start right up, and it's just like I like that. I don't know if it was maybe a Teutonic thing, and I'd like to see some more evidence of that. But it just starts right up. I mean, the song it's like boom, it just started like somebody pressed play right off the bat, and they were ready to go. Heavy song, and again, I think it's a return to song number one with those really good snarly evil vocals. Has a little bit more of a kind of a death metal-y sound for me, but still very clear and definitely thrashy. And I find the guitars, especially at the end of the solo in that, the guitars kind of have a bit of an Iron Maiden vibe for me. And I listened to it like 3 times and I was like, God, this just really reminds me of like a Maiden song, a faster, not the vocals and not anything else, but just the guitars. Definitely have that sound for me. And I was like, it just felt like I kind of heard something like it before. And I'm trying to think, where have I heard that? And more of a traditional Maiden sound to it, especially towards the end of the song.
Cool. Ken?
Yeah, that's funny. Jimmy said that because I wrote that in my notes. Like, it's like a soaring riff, it's not that it's out of place. It's great, but it's just like, whoa! It just out of nowhere you get this riff that's like, wow! It just hits you. I love it. The song, it's about bullfighting. So basically, Tom's a very, what I find about this album, at least from analyzing it and listening to the lyrics, Tom is a really, really passionate person, and his insights about the idea of human nature, howbeit like, we're talking about bullfighting, but bullfighting could easily correlate to like war, because there's a kind of senselessness to the idea of like trotting out this animal and you going out to battle with it. So I love the fact that again you get this song that kind of like it's brutal in terms of the lyrics, like the brutal and cruel idea of squaring off with an animal. So it's fantastic, and that's what I like about this album is the lyrics really really shine for me.
Cool. Yeah, I've said it before. I'm not the biggest like lyric guy. I just assumed the song title was war related, but I guess it
Yeah,
shows. What do
bullfighting.
I know?
But you could relate it to that, like you could relate bullfighting to war. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
so it's all related. None of the songs are really out of place, if you want my honest opinion. All the
True.
songs sort of correlate together, even though they're
Yeah.
different subject matters, but they all seem to correlate.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, for me, I think this is a good track, like, albeit a very straightforward kind of thrasher. Like, if I'm honest, it's probably I guess I'll say my least favorite on the album.
Okay.
But again, still a good track. Yeah, you guys have already sort of said it. I didn't get the Maiden connection, obviously, as usual. I didn't catch that, but I just love the Frank the instrumental break towards the end with Frank on guitar. So I enjoyed that same part. I also thought it was one of his best lead breaks on the record. So I thought that was pretty cool. But if I'm honest, and I have to pick a song that's my least favorite, it would be this one. So Exhibition Bout. Okay. So track number 7, Awesome. Ken, why don't you start us here?
Yeah, this is a really cool song.
Yeah.
It's so like it's obviously like a homage to Motorhead because I hear so much of those vibes, that gasoline fuel quick tempo that you get in a Motorhead song. You're getting
Yeah.
it here, and it's so great. It's a short song, and it's again kind of catchy because they keep repeating Osabom over and over and over,
Yeah.
which just hammers home this point. So, lyrically, again, Tom has decided to discuss the ideas of the impacts and the effects of war on people. So I think it's great. Like he's really looking at things from a different kind of lens, and it
Mhm.
makes the song great. I think this is a really catchy song, but I like this song quite a bit.
Yeah, no, me too. I think it really mixes up the pace
Mm-hmm.
of the album, right? And of course, the English translation means bombed out,
Right.
is what the word actually means. But yeah, like I agree, Ken. It's like I mean, there's a Motorhead feel. It's like super punky, but yeah, it's just a good change of pace for the album. Like often they turn this into like on live like an extended play. And they sort of
Mm-hmm.
expand on the instrumental and the crowd shouts back. So
Nice.
yeah, it's a pretty cool song that way. Yeah, and it's just incredibly catchy. And you can like they actually released, I don't know if it was an EP or a single with all the German lyrics.
Oh,
So
cool.
you can kind of find that around. Like I even found it on Apple Music. You can listen to the song all in German, and it's
Yeah.
still pretty damn cool. Like whether you the
Mm-hmm.
lyrics are English or German, but yeah. So I think it's great and it just adds to the mix of the album. So Jim, what are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorites again. I mean, that
Oh,
drum
good.
intro and that bass intro is amazing. And it gives you that earworm and it's a toe tapper. I mean, you're thinking about Sodom as toe tapper. This is definitely it. And it is that Motorhead punk vibe. Have that written down and it's 100%. I mean, this song is wicked and it's kind of reminds me of maybe, I mean, the production here is really good. So that this doesn't, but this sounds like it possibly could have even fit in if it was in really shitty production on maybe their first EP, just because it's so catchy and it's so cool. But I mean, the production on this is phenomenal. So, but no, I love it. One of my favorite songs. This would be another one.
Oh, cool. How about you, Ken?
Yeah, like I said, I like this song quite a bit. Like the Motorhead vibe is, you get it, and it's very catchy. The chorus is so catchy. So yeah, for me, this is a song I would actually like hear it, and then you're going out, you're doing something, and it just pops into your mind. So the earworm thing is something that's a good coin of phrase.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a great song.
Yeah, no, I'm excuse me, I'm a big fan too. So okay, so the opening of this song, and it happens once or twice later.
Mhm.
So that sort of cool drum and bass rhythm to open the song, that pounding drumming. Tell me
Mhm.
that doesn't sound like Fabulous Disaster from Exodus.
Yeah.
Oh
It
Like,
yeah,
does.
yeah,
like
yeah. I can
that
see
drum
that.
beat and that rhythm is the exact same thing. Like it totally
Yeah.
Yeah,
changes after. It
yeah, yeah,
doesn't carry it forward. But the opening of that thing is 100%
yeah,
the
yeah,
drumming
yeah.
of Fabulous Disaster.
I can see that.
But so my one connection to another band.
You got one, bud.
But yeah, I think it's a great one here again. To me, this one could have easily fit on Persecution Mania.
Yeah.
It just like totally rips. Also, which is cool here is like two or three times the song just suddenly pauses for like a brief second and then it takes off again. So I thought that was pretty cool. Again, they do that two or three times. It's
Mhm.
pretty effective. Um, you know, like it's an intense song, but once again, Frank brings the melody in his
Yeah.
solos, so it kind of balances out quite well. And I'm gonna sound like a broken record here, like, and we've hit on this, but I personally would have put it as the last track, but
Yes.
Okay.
that's me, right? I enjoy the last track, but I think it just would have been like a better closer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I got you guys both on this one, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, cool.
We're all good.
Um, so yeah, that brings us down to the last track. And so a cover. So I don't know. I mean, I've always said should you end an album on a cover?
No.
But yeah, again, we won't harp over that. Don't Walk Away, a pretty quick song. It's under 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Ken, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'll argue with you guys a little bit on it. Like, yeah, I get your point. Ending it with a cover, okay, fine. But it's by Tank. It's from their 1981 EP EP Don't Walk Away, which is, I like that song actually.
Yeah, me too.
I thought they do a really good job of honoring it. Maybe giving put a bit of a more metallic spin to it. But I always liked Tank. Tank was very similar to Motorhead in a lot of ways. They had a very similar kind of greasy, fueled engine style hard rock, whatever you want to call it. So I could see why they would pick this. Also, if you think about Tank, their name is Tank. Their images are always have
Yeah,
tanks
it's
on the
true.
cover. So I kind of I see the correlation.
Yeah.
So I don't mind the fact that, oh, we're gonna take a Tank song and do it. So I'm good with it. And they've actually covered Tank a couple of times on some other albums down the road. So I don't mind it. I mean, I would agree that, Baptism of Fire is probably the better way to end your album.
Yeah.
But I could live with this for what it is. It's not as erroneous as some tracks that we've discussed previously. So I mean, I could live with this. So for me, I could just I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like the track. Like, other than
Yeah.
Yeah.
its placement on the album, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, to me, Tom really sounds like Lemmy on this thing,
Yeah.
at times, right? It's, yeah, other than its placement, but yeah, I think it's a great track, and adds some more diversity to the album. And yeah, I mean, I guess when you think about the war theme, Tank makes perfect sense. I never thought of it that way, but that's a good point, Ken. Jim, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they went with a more obscure pick. So
Yeah,
something a little bit more metal than My Sharona, like we talked about
yeah, I was
from
gonna say.
Destruction.
Yeah.
So, but I wouldn't have put it, I would have rathered, like, I would
Mhm.
have rathered an extra song or it to end on Baptism of Fire and maybe have this in the middle or even as a bonus track. I know back in the 90s, there wasn't a lot of bonus material. It was the album and no matter what was on it, as the CDs progressed and whatever, they started getting into all the extras and stuff. But hey, you know what? It's a great cover and the original is a great song from a great band. So, you got, I'm glad they went and picked something that's probably a little more closer to them in the sense that they really like it. So if they're fans of it, and I'm all for putting something like this on an album to get more fans into another band. There's nothing wrong with that, and I think that's pretty cool and commendable.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like, I
Yeah,
don't really know. Like, I was watching a YouTube video. I forget what channel. It may have been like Heavy Metallurgy, but they were doing like a ranking and they were getting into covers. Oh, I think it was Wasp. They were ranking the Wasp catalog, and Wasp has done a fair amount of covers. And like Wasp has a bad habit of putting the cover songs like second or third on the album,
yeah.
which seems out of place. Like, I don't really know. And then I'm complaining because it's last now. Like, I don't know where the right place is. Like I'm thinking stick it in the middle just to mix it up. But I don't know if you guys have any thoughts there.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, yeah. Cover songs are tricky. Sometimes
Yeah.
there are only a handful of bands that I think really get the idea of a cover song. Metallica to me is probably the only thrash band that really gets it. And maybe Anthrax a little bit too, but yeah, it's where you put a cover song could really make or break your, I guess, the flow of an album for me. So yeah, but you're right, Billy. Wasp was always one to like put cover songs at the beginning of their albums, which is kind of strange. But
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's just that's how Blackie thought. I don't know
Yeah.
what his thought process was, but it's a bit weird.
Yeah, I think the middle of the album's more prudent, like for these albums. But I think
Mm-hmm.
it's the pick too. You gotta. I like it when a band picks something they're massively fans of, and not just trying to maybe do
Yeah.
a stretch. Like this is cool. Destruction we talked about last podcast with like City Baby Attacked by Rats, the GBH cover. That is phenomenal, and that's what you got to do. You got to pick something, and then because I know I have friends of mine who were like, "Hey, did you hear that Destruction song?" I'm like, "It's not a Destruction song. That's a punk song. You got to listen to the original and then check this out." And with Tank, I remember many years ago. That's what I did, and that's how I checked out Tank and got into Tank was probably through this album. So
Hmm.
that's really really cool. I just for covers for me, I just don't like it when they take a stretch. They just go kind of silly. I guess there's nothing wrong with having fun. I'm not against that. Children of Bodom does a whole covers album, and they have some kind of silly ones on there, and I think they're just kind of taking the Mickey out of it, which is there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think middle, you don't showcase it, and it would always be for me. I think it could be released as a B-side to maybe like that would be cool if if you release Agent Orange as a single, maybe throw that on as the B side just to give everybody a little bit of a bonus, or two B sides, maybe another song and then that, just to kind of have it there. To me, it's added bonus. That's all it is. It's just extra.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean, not to we'll move on to the rankings, but just one thing I would say, like I'm left with this album, like it's 40 minutes with the cover song. Like
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved like another like solid like one of these like 5 minute like banger tracks that are
yeah.
elsewhere on the record, right? Like yeah, and that's my only sort of negative gripe on the album is I would have liked more. But anyways, cool. So before we get to the ranking, any last words you guys want to say about the album?
Yeah, for me, well, from my standpoint, I think lyrically, this is one of Tom's better albums for me. It's very poignant. A lot of social issues, a lot of I guess introspection on the idea of war and humanity. So yeah, it's just having the opportunity to go through it again and just examine everything that he wrote. Yeah, this is a really good record. And like you said, Frank Blackfire, oh my gosh, those riffs,
Yeah.
they're all memorable. So what a great combination.
For me, it checks all the boxes, lyrically, musically, and vocally, and that's what it's all about. It just checks those three boxes, and then you have the added bonus of the really awesome album art and theme. So for me, it checks everything. The cover song doesn't hinder my ranking, so
Mm-mm.
doesn't hinder it in this. A lot of albums I would maybe drop a point off due to not my pick of a cover song, but this doesn't hinder my pick at all. So not to give anything away.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so let's move to the album ranking. So this will take a bit of time given all the albums. Jim, how about you kick us off? I'm really curious
Sure.
to see where you guys ended up.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's weird. I'm all over the place. So and my last few here aren't necessarily bad albums. They're just, we have to rank them.
Yeah.
So there has to be a last place. So my last one would be Epitome of Torture, 2013. Good album, probably for me, probably the least amount of album I've actually played. So I probably could look at maybe spinning that a little more. My 15 would be The Final Sign of Evil. I love Blasphemer off that. I mean, I like this album, and I'm glad they released the EP in this. So, you have the original EP in this. I just would have rathered maybe this be a 2-part album where you can buy you get this album with the with the re-recordings, and then maybe as second bonus disc with the originals on there. I'm an originals guy, and I love the chalky, muddy sound from these early 80s albums and EPs that, Slayer, Metallica, Megadeth, everybody complains about Killing Is My Business. The original is awesome in my mind. You need those imperfections to make it what it was at the time. And that's what I want to hear. So that's why I'm ranking that, even though it is a killer album and it has an amazing EP on it. And, that EP, was a lot of more kind of polished a little bit more towards a more black metal fan base. And, I think Mayhem, a lot of the members of Mayhem were really into this album. I know if you go in and look at pictures of even Dead's bedroom, he has this on his wall, or in Helvete, the record store, it's on the wall. So they really paid a lot of homage to these early Sodom albums, which is kind of neat. Number 14, Masquerade in Blood. Brain Dead's a killer song off that. 13, 1994, Get What You Deserve. That's a great album. 12, Obsessed by Cruelty, and that may be a little bit out of sync with you guys. I'm not sure. 1986, After the Deluge is my favorite song, and I know there's a lot of great songs on it. I just think there's a lot more better stuff on here, that's all. Number 11, Better Off Dead. 1990, The Saw Is the Law. Killer song for me. Number 10, Till Death Do Us Unite. No Way Out's wicked on that. That's from 97. 9. In War and Pieces, 2010, Storm Raging Up. That's a wicked song. Number 8, this may fall out of sync, I know, probably with Ken's and maybe with yours, Billy. Code Red, 99. Tombstone's a wicked song, but that is one hell of a wicked album. I'm going with number 7, Genesis, and I love their 2020 release. That's their newest full album, and I love it. I mean, it's like they never give up, and Sodom and Gomorrah off that is amazing. Sodom, 2006, Blood on Your Lips. That's a wicked song. Number 5, I kind of gave this away earlier. I love 1992, Tapping the Vein. The whole album for me is just a memorable, kick-ass album. Body Parts, probably my favorite song off this, but I love the whole album.
Yeah, good song.
Number 4, 2016, Decision Day. That's kind of an interesting one. It kind of ranks high, and it's a newer album, but I really like it. Strangeless World is cool on that. And then my top 3. Number 3 is M16, 2001. Love that album. Number 2, Persecution Mania, 1987. Nuclear Winter on that. I mean, that's a kick-ass album. And this is my number 1. I love this album. I love, like I say, it checks all boxes for me. This is a 10 out of 10 thrash album, and would be in easily somewhere in my top 10 thrash albums of all time.
Funny, Jim, I was just going to say that to you. What would you rank it? 10 out of 10. Not surprised.
10 out of 10. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
Persecution Mania is wicked too.
I didn't ask what people would rank Agent Orange.
That's okay.
I just assumed we would all give it a 10, but
yeah.
I'll let you say otherwise. But
that's okay. No worries.
Okay, cool. So Ken, we'll go to you. And just before Ken, you go. Like I would say, Jim. Like I was pretty. We had a couple that were drastically different, but we
Yeah.
probably had about seven at least in the exact same place.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of interesting. Ken, let's see where you landed.
Okay, so as I said earlier, I'm not a fan of much of the 90s output, but let me just preface that by saying I would probably have to go back and give them a much more spin again and see if my ranking changes. But at 16, I have Till Death Do Us Unite, which is okay. At 15, I'm putting Masquerade in Blood. Number 14, I'm putting Get What You Deserve. Number 13, I slotted in The Final Sign of Evil. Number 12, Epitome of Torture. I really like that album. There's a couple really good songs that Cannibal I liked. Invocating Demons I also liked. Those kind of hits the spot for me. Number 11, I have 2006 Blood on Your Lips. Sorry, Sodom, but Blood on Your Lips is a song that I really, really like off that one. Then we'll go into the top 10. So Genesis XIX 2020. I do agree with Jim. It's a really good album.
Yeah.
A lot of good songs. I don't have a problem with it overall. I come back to it often. Number 9, I did slot Decision Day in there. I love the song titles like Vaginal Born Evil. What a song! What a song title. That's great. Number 8, I did have In War and Pieces. I love the song God Bless You. I think it's kind of interesting. That album cover is really solid. I love that album cover quite a bit.
Yeah.
Number 7, I put Tapping the Vein. Yeah, it's a really good album as well. Body Parts and Skinned Alive are two songs that I really, really like on it. Number 6, I do have M16. So Among the Weird Kong and Napalm in the Morning are two songs that I find a little quirky, but I kind of dig them. Number 5, I do have Better Off Dead. Eye for an Eye is an awesome song. I love it. They do have a Tank cover song here, Turn Your Head Around, which is all right. But I love Saw's the Law. What a great song.
Yeah.
Number 4, I'm putting Obsessed by Cruelty. I mean, you get the Venom influence. You get like some interesting songs like Witch Hammer and Volcanic Slut. So it's interesting for what it's not one I will come back to a lot. I find it very primitive for my taste, but it still needs to be recognized. Number 3, I've got Code Red. Code Red to me is a wonderful album. I'm saying wonderful, but it should be like a killer record all the way through. Every song is great. Like Book Burning, What Hell Can Create. Oh my God. And the title track, Code Red. Awesome. Awesome album. Love that album to death. Number 2 is Persecution Mania. A great album. Nuclear Winter is my favorite song on that album. Love it. And obviously you already know that Agent Origin is my favorite album of their discovery, and I'm giving that a 10 out of 10.
All right, cool. Actually, Ken, we have like probably 4 or 5 that were in the exact same spot, and then many of our others were like only like one off. So, so pretty close there. Yeah, for me, I think so. This is episode 4. We've done these rankings. For me, this was the most difficult one, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought the first 6 were easy. Like that was a no-brainer. I just wrote them down. But like 14 to 7 got really tough because I mean, obviously 14 is not as good as 7, but like as you start to go through that, there's less and less to differentiate between them, right? In terms of quality. So, so just very consistent output. So what do I have? I have number 16. Final Side of Evil. So for me, like I love the EP, it's great, but I'm just I think you probably said it as well, Jim. I'm just not a fan of re-recording, right? That's the way everyone does it the original way. Now I'm going to talk out of the other side of my mouth because I do think last year's Sepultura re-recordings of those 2 early albums were excellent. I think that's the only time
they were great.
Yeah. Yeah, just fantastic. But again, here, I didn't think it needed to be done. But you did get like 7 other songs from the time. So maybe that could have been an EP. But anyways, for me, number 15, Masquerade in Blood. That's probably it is my least favorite from the 90s. I just think it's the weakest songwriting. Nothing there pulls me back. I try it like every couple years, and yeah, just not a big fan. Um, but again, not a terrible album, but it just, the songwriting's not as strong. Just like you guys, I've got the punk albums coming up here. So for me, Till Death Do Us Unite. I mean, you just say we can't say that without mentioning that completely crazy album cover.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on there, but
Yeah.
I mean, this and number 13, Get What You Deserved. I like Get What You Deserved a little bit more. It's the artwork and themes are a little bit more violent there. Like I really like the punky song Jabba the Hutt. Like they just played that at Hell's Heroes a week ago, so that was pretty cool. For me, Epitome of Torture comes in at number 12. I think it's a good thrash record, but not as strong as the top half. Then I've got the new material coming next, and this may partly because I haven't lived with it as long. Like I've listened to all the Sodom albums quite consistently, being one of my favorite band. But so I have like Genesis for number 11 from 2020. Again, I think it's a great track, modern production on the Sodom sound. But to my ears, there's still a couple weaker songs that sort of put it down in ranking. Then number 10, Decision Day from 2016. And again, the 10th place sounds like it's not a great album, but I love this album. I think it's great. We're getting into they're really hard to differentiate in terms of quality now. Number 9, I have Obsessed by Cruelty. For me, I think, Ken, you said it good. It's just a bit primitive. So for me, it's just too primitive. Same thing like when we did Creator Endless Pain, I probably had down towards the bottom as well. I just prefer the more mature sound. Number 8, In War and Pieces. I like that you called out Ken, God Bless You.
Yes.
I sort of
Good song.
jotted that down. That and The Art of Killing Poetry are like
Yeah.
my
Yes.
two of my favorite tracks from there. Then I have the self-titled Sodom album, just like number 8, just another 8 and 7. Like like I gotta say, these are the guitarist then was Bernd Cost. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but these two albums, the self-titled and In War and Pieces, they're really guitar-driven albums, kind of like Frank did. So I think we should call him out on those. Number 6, Code Red. You guys said everything you have to say. Excellent, like thrash record coming out of the punk period. Number 5, Tapping the Vein. Just love this album. Aggressive and heavy. You guys both. I jotted down Body Parts. You guys both did, but also love the Crippler. They've been playing that live the last couple of times I saw them, so that's cool. For me, Better Off Dead's number 4. I think it's probably their most underappreciated album. I just love it. I think it's a good continuation of Agent Orange, but in fairness, it's not the same quality of Agent Orange. So obviously ranked a little bit lower. M16. So Tom's again focus on the Vietnam War comes back big time here. Now here's a case we've talked about all the covers we liked. Here's a cover I hate. That Surfing Bird cover. Like that's
Oh, yeah,
oh
yeah.
that's a cover that's like
Mm,
you were saying, Jim, pick the right song. That's not the right song. But here, like just Napalm in the Morning, Among the Weird Kong,
mm.
M16, the cover track are all awesome. And Sodom just opened their show with Among the Weird Kong.
Oh,
So
cool.
that was a really cool way to do that. Number 2, just like you guys, Persecution Mania. And same thing, one of my favorite tracks, Nuclear Winter. I mean, they played that
Yeah.
too. I would probably say the audience at Hell's Heroes had the best reaction out of the whole 90-minute set to Nuclear Winter.
Mhm.
Oh,
And
cool.
Agent Orange were probably the two most popular songs. And again, I'm giving credit, as I already have, to Frank on this album, and then Agent Orange is my number one, and would be a 10 out of 10. So, yeah, we weren't too far off, really. Like,
Nope.
and
No.
I think our 1 and 2s are exact, right?
Yep. Our 1 and 2s are
Yeah.
exact.
And we
Makes
picked
sense.
most of the same songs. We all picked
Yeah.
like top songs, which is kind of neat.
Which is
Yeah,
funny.
no, that's true. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. And if we included the first EP,
Oh.
in the Sign of Evil, would that have made your? We don't have to go and change the ranking, but would you have put that top half or bottom half?
Top
Bottom
half.
half for, yeah.
Yeah,
Top half for me. I would want to like. I gotta pay homage to that. That started, probably launched a ton of heavy metal, black metal careers out there, and I think you know, again, I feel bad about putting the Final Sign of Evil as number 15, but man, I like you said, I know all the other 7 songs were apparently written along the same time frame, but I would have rather maybe if they would have, I would have given more props that if they would have done maybe even the 7 songs they didn't release, maybe the other 5 songs, the new songs, and then put the EP in there as just a bonus or something. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's fine to re-release stuff and redo it, but I would rather a recreation. The new Motorhead stuff too. Like I buy all the new Motorhead stuff with the extra stuff, and it's great. But I still, there's a part of me that would like to have, or even the Venom catalog. You get the new re-recordings. I'd like to have the original recording in there too, because they're harder and harder to get. And I think people need to hear what they originally sounded like. I mean, and I know a lot of people don't like the muddy and the production. I mean, Venom did a lot of the stuff on, like Ghetto Blasters or something. It wasn't very high tech, but that's what you got to get into sometimes. And I'm all for re-recording and maybe remastering, but we, like throw the original stuff in there too as a bonus.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree.
But you made
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ken.
No, I was just gonna say, Billy, you made a good point though about the Sepultura. That was
Yeah.
that re-recording was wild. I loved it because they paid homage to it and didn't change it, so it still had the sound. Because I was comparing both the original and the re-recording, and it's pretty close. But I just love how they paid homage to it.
Yeah.
And another
sorry, go
another
ahead.
good one. Sorry, another good one is like the Black Sabbath Live Evil remasters.
Yeah.
The remixes.
Good. Yeah.
The remixes. That's what needed to happen. That album was rushed back when they released it with Dio, and I think that they did a really good job with it. I needed it. It took this long to get it out, and then they have I hope to God so far, the tracks I've heard off of the new Tony Martin-era albums. Well, 4 of them anyways, that they're going to be re-releasing in May. I think that's going to be a kick-ass one too. It's just, I don't know. I don't mind a remix. I don't even mind, cleaning them up. I love the Live Evil. They added more of a live atmosphere to it. I always felt the original recording felt more kind of just not really a lot of live. It seemed rushed to me at the time, and maybe it was because it was a band in kind of flux and turmoil, but I think there's another example where they brought it out and did a great job.
Yeah. And I still have what album was that? I didn't enjoy it. The that one Flotsam album they re-recorded. That was a mess.
Oh yeah,
What
that
was
was No Place for Disgrace.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. It was awful.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure we can find a couple that didn't turn out too well.
Yeah, that wasn't good. But they didn't have the original lineup either, don't forget, when they recorded that. So it kind of makes a difference when you don't even have the original lineup back to record that album, because that album is bloody well amazing. Original.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Cool. So any other thoughts on Sodom or anything else, guys?
No, I think we covered everything about something we could get on this episode. So, but it's great. Like, it's nice that we had a chance to do that. For me though, I'd have to go back and I don't like I've listened to all their albums, but sometimes there's a lot of breaks in between when I've heard their stuff, so I have to go back and fully give some of their albums a better go because I
Yeah.
haven't heard a lot of them in a while. So the rankings to me could change easily next week. If you gave me a week to re-listen to everything, I might actually have a different ranking. It's just sometimes you consume so much. There's only so much time to consume so much metal, at least for me, anyways, in a day. So sometimes things just get missed,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I think it's funny because we've done 3 of the Teutonic 4, and all 3 of them have massive catalogs.
Yeah.
Just massive. Like I think Destruction at 16 we ranked. Like it's just so cool that these bands have been around and they're still putting out new relevant material. And I think I think it was Billy, you might have said that these bands, and I'll throw Tankard in there as well, who has a large discography, are much more consistent, especially in a lot of the 90s compared to the Big Four, the American Big Four in a lot of cases. So, they stuck to the plan a little bit better than some of the other ones. I mean, you Metallica being the biggest and then kind of going off the rails in another direction and haven't really found their way back yet. So it's kind of neat that the Teutonic, the German Big Four are kind of along those lines of really staying somewhat true to the thrash movement.
Yeah. No, makes sense. All right, cool. So I think we'll probably wrap it there. That's a good discussion. So yeah, so that sums up episode 4. I'm really looking forward to next week. We actually didn't we hint next week already last week?
We did, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, you can say it again, Billy. Go for it.
Yeah, so we're the band will be Heathen and the brilliant 1991 Victims of Deception album. So yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but that's a classic for sure. And so stay tuned for that. And thanks to everyone again for tuning in to this episode and all the episodes. And thank you to Jim and Ken for joining me today. Always lots of fun doing the podcast with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Have a good night, all.